As he read it, puzzling out the runes and symbols one by one, a horror came over him. His eyes were fixed, and he could not lift them till he had finished reading all the spell. Then, raising his head, he saw it was dark in the house. He had been reading without any light, in the darkness. He could not now make out the runes when he looked down at the book, yet the horror grew in him, seeming to hold him bound in his chair. He was cold. Looking over his shoulder, he saw that something was crouching beside the closed door, a shapeless clot of shadow, darker than the darkness. It seemed to reach out towards him, and to whisper, and to call to him in a whisper, but he could not understand the words. The door was flung wide. A man entered with a white light flaming about him, a great bright figure who spoke aloud, fiercely and suddenly. The darkness and the whispering ceased and were dispelled. The horror went out of Ged, but he still was mortally afraid, for it was Ogian the mage who stood there in the doorway with the brightness all about him, and the oaken staff in his hand burned with a white radiance. Saying no word, the mage came past Ged and lighted the lamp and put the books away on their shelf. Then he turned to the boy and said, "You will never work that spell, but in peril of your power and your life. Was it for that spell you opened the books?" "No, master," the boy murmured, and shamefully he told Ogian what he had sought and why. "You do not remember what I told you, that the girl's mother, the Lord's wife, is an enchantress?" Indeed, Ogian had once said this, but Ged had not paid much attention, though he knew by now that Ogian never told him anything that he had not good reason to tell him. "The girl herself is half a witch already. It may be the mother who sent the girl to talk to you. It may be she who opened the book to the page you read. The powers she serves are not the powers I serve. I do not know her will, but I know she does not will me well. Ged, listen to me now. Have you never thought how danger must surround power as shadow does light? This sorcery is not a game we play for pleasure or for praise. Think of this, that every word, every act of our art is said and is done either for good or for evil. Before you speak or do, you must know the price that is to pay." Driven by his shame, Ged cried, "How am I to know these things when you teach me nothing? Since I lived with you, I have done nothing, seen nothing." "Now you have seen something," said the mage, "by the door, in the darkness, when I came in." Ged was silent. Ogian knelt down and built the fire on the hearth, and lit it, for the house was cold. Then, still kneeling, he said in his quiet voice, "Ged, my young falcon, you are not bound to me or to my service. You did not come to me, but I to you. You are very young to make this choice, but I cannot make it for you. If you wish, I will send you to Roke Island, where all high arts are taught. Any craft you undertake to learn, you will learn, for your power is great, greater even than your pride, I hope. I would keep you here with me, for what I have is what you lack, but I will not keep you against your will. Now, choose between Ray Albi and Rook." Ged stood dumb, his heart bewildered. He had come to love this man, Ogian, who had healed him with his touch and who had no anger. He loved him, and had not known it until now. He looked at the oaken staff leaning in the chimney corner, remembering the radiance of it that had burned out evil from the dark, and he yearned to stay with Ogian, to go wandering through the forests with him long and far, learning how to be silent. Yet other cravings were in him that would not be stilled. The wish for glory, the will to act. Ogian seemed a long road towards mastery, a slow bypath to follow, when he might go sailing before the sea winds straight to the inmost sea, to the Isle of the Wise, where the air was bright with enchantments and the archmage walked amidst wonders. "Master," he said, "I will go to Roke." So a few days later, on a sunny morning of spring, Ogian strode beside him down the steep road from the Overfell, 15 miles to the great port of Gaunt. There at the land gate, between carven dragons, the guards of the city of Gaunt, seeing the mage, knelt with bared swords and welcomed him. They knew him, and did him honor by the prince's order and their own will. For 10 years ago, Ogian had saved the city from earthquake that would have shaken the towers of the rich down to the ground and closed the channel of the armed cliffs with avalanche. He had spoken to the mountain of Gaunt, calming it, and had stilled the trembling precipices of the Overfell as one soothes a frightened beast. Get had heard some talk of this, and now, wondering to see the armed guardsman kneel to his quiet master, he remembered it. He glanced up, almost in fear, at this man who had stopped an earthquake, but Ogian's face was quiet as always. They went down to the quays, where the harbour master came hastening to welcome Ogian and ask what service he might do. The mage told him, and all at once he named a ship bound for the inmost sea, aboard which Ged might go as passenger. "Or they will take him as wind-bringer," he said, "if he has the craft. They have no weather worker aboard. He has some skill with mist and fog, but none with sea winds," the mage said, putting his hand lightly on Ged's shoulder. "Do not try any tricks with the sea and the winds of the sea, Sparrowhawk. You are a landsman still. Harbour master, what is the ship's name?" "Shadow, from the Andreades, bound to Hawktown with furs and ivories. A good ship, Master Ogian." The mage's face darkened at the name of the ship, but he said, "So be it. Give this writing to the warder of the School of Roke, Sparrowhawk. Go with a fair wind. Farewell." This was all his parting. He turned away and went striding up the street away from the quays. Ged stood forlorn and watched his master go. "Come along, lad," said the harbour master, and took him down to the waterfront pier where the Shadow was making ready to sail. It might seem strange that on an island 50 miles wide, in a village under cliffs that stare out forever on the sea, a child may grow to manhood, never having stepped in a boat or dipped his finger in salt water, but so it is. Farmer, goat-herd, cattle-herd, hunter, or artisan, the landsman looks at the ocean as a salt, unsteady realm that has nothing to do with him at all. The village 2 days' walk from his village is a foreign land, and the island a day's sail from his is a mere rumour. Misty hills seen across the water, not solid ground like that he walks on. So to Ged, who had never been down from the heights of the mountain, the port of Gaunt was an awesome and marvellous place. The great houses and towers of cut stone, and waterfront of piers and docks and basins and moorages, the seaport where 500 boats and galleys rocked at the quayside or lay hauled up and overturned for repairs, or stood out at anchor in the roadstead which furled sails and closed oarboards, the sailors shouting in strange dialects, and the longshoremen running heavy laden amongst barrels and boxes and coils of rope and stacks of oars, the bearded merchants in furred robes conversing quietly as they picked their way along the slimy stones above the water, the fishermen unloading their catch, coopers pounding and shipmakers hammering, and clam sellers singing and shipmasters bellowing, and beyond all the silent, shining bay. With eyes and ears and mind bewildered, he followed the harbour master to the broad dock where Shadow was tied up, and the harbour master brought him to the master of the ship. With few words spoken, the ship's master agreed to take Ged as passenger to Roke, since it was the mage that asked it, and the harbour master left the boy with him. The master of the Shadow was a big man and fat, in a red cloak trimmed with Palawi fur, such as the Andridian merchants wear. He never looked at Ged, but asked him in a mighty voice, "Can you work weather, boy?" "I can."
Can you bring the wind?"
He had to say he could not, and with that, the master told him to find a place out of the way and stay in it. The oarsmen were coming aboard now, for the ship was to go out into the roadstead before nightfall and sail with the ebb tide near dawn. There was no place out of the way, but Ged climbed up as well as he could onto the bundled, lashed and hide-covered cargo in the stern of the ship, and, clinging there, watched all that passed. The oarsmen came leaping aboard, sturdy men with great arms, while longshoremen rolled water barrels thundering out of the dock and stowed them under the rowers' benches. The well-built ship rode low with her burden, yet danced a little on the lapping shore waves, ready to be gone. Then the steersman took his place at the right of the stern post, looking forward to the ship's master, who stood on a plank and that let in a jointure at the keel of the stern, which was carved as the old servant of Andrad. The master roared his orders hugely, and Shadow was untied and towed clear of the docks by 2 laboring rowboats. Then the master's roar was, "Open ports!" and the great oars shot rattling out, 15 to a side. The rowers bent their strong backs, while a lad up beside the master beat the stroke on a drum. Easy as a gull, oared by her wings, the ship went now, and the noise and hurly-burly of the city fell away suddenly behind. They came out in the silence of the waters of the bay, and over them rose the white peak of the mountain, seeming to hang above the sea. In a shallow creek in the lee of the southern armed cliff, the anchor was thrown over, and there they rode the night.